Well, I just want to point out one of these myths of stories that's going around that off-grid living supposedly was made illegal in the state of Florida. That is patently not true. I'm going to tell you right now. It's when you're taking a tiny snippet of one town in South Florida, in one case, in a area that has a heavy population, you're talking, and you're saying that's the whole state. No way in hell. Actually, in the state of Florida, actually, there's a hell of a lot more off-grid living than you would believe. There's a gazillion different RV camper parks. Um, Even I'm going to even highlight this. They call it the forest people live up in the Colorado National Forest. Now, it may be illegal, but there's loads of freaking people actually live up in here some places. But actually, it's located in central Florida, but it's a huge national forest. And the whole area around the national forest is not populated either. It's not like there's a whole bunch of suburban subdivisions up against the borders of the Colorado National Forest. But even if you take that into consideration, there's loads of people that are living off the grid on boats, catamaran type boats, and regular other types of sailboats, motorized boats, airboats, campers, RVs, you name it. And actually, in most of the state, now maybe you're not going to say most of the state population wise, but most of the state area wise, it's people have wells and they have a septic. So right there, they're semi off the grid. The only thing they have is electric, and most of the state doesn't even have natural gas because it doesn't. There's not a lot of heat requirement. It's just you only need electricity. Now it's no big deal. You can put up solar panels. So I don't know what the hell this big drama story is that Florida, not because the Colorado National Forest is actually a good example because there's people that just are living out in the forest. They call them the forest people. They got a whole communes living out there, and nobody really bothers them unless something happens where, the law gets broken, where there's some really bad crime that happens. But there's all kinds of stuff going on. I mean, it's like this is actually a lot of open territory in Florida because most of the population is concentrated around Tampa, Miami, and Jacksonville and Orlando. So. But you got a lot of Jeep trails going through. Colorado National Forest and a lot of camping going on. But, considering that the climate is so freaking warm over here, it's the state where there's loads of retirees down here just in an RV camper, and they just pay for a hookup. And they're totally free. They can go anytime. They can go anywhere they want. Loads of people like that. Loads of people living on boats. And, the state, because I've seen this on, I don't want to even say, but I saw this thing about big drama story. I guess it's a big drama story for views. Like, the big tyranny is cracking down. No, it's only in, like, if you're talking like Miami-Dade County where there's an extremely high population or something, or whatever, Fort Lauderdale or whatever. I mean, you might be talking about, you maybe got to be hooked up to the electricity. But it's like if you want to go off the grid, the vast majority of the state of Florida, you can definitely go off the grid. No problem at all. And you got the weather on your side. So, there's a lot of other places that got a lot more rules in this joint. I can tell you that right now. And the other thing is, a lot of places in Florida have some pretty good access to a lot of fresh water. Some of the water, like up in Silver Springs, they got like ponds and things up there in springs. You're not going to see any gators in there. I know, like they always say, like every single pond or puddle, any puddle of water in Florida has a gator in it. That's semi-true because you can even be in a subdivision where they got a little artificial lake and it has a like a little irrigation tunnel going to it. There could be gators in there, but if you actually go up into the springs, like Silver Springs, where the water's too fresh and I don't know, it's too clean or whatever. There's no gators in there. You can see right to the bottom, no problem, man. There's no gators in there, man. There's some places there's no gators. That's good. I wish you can kill them damn things, but you're not allowed to. They're protected now. But yeah, there's a lot of places actually in Florida. There's loads of people living off the grid completely, and pretty much, I'd say, I don't know exactly. Well, I guess if you left out like Dade County and the Tampa area, maybe Jacksonville, the most populated areas. If you just left that out, of the remainder of Florida, practically everybody has a well and septic system. I mean, the only thing you have to do to go off the grid from there is just go to solar panels, and that's not a big deal. It's allowed. It's allowed. I mean, there's only a couple places down South Florida where freaking playing is garbage. Most of the state, you're pretty much allowed. County's got a lot of power. Every county's got their own freaking setup, man. So if you don't like it in one area, just go somewhere else. Because, I mean, there's a big drama story about Florida's not allowing freaking go off. Yeah, this is the off-grid state to the max, man. Because the weather's on your side. I mean, right now, yeah, it's cooler, like maybe it's in the 40s. It's a cold snap. I'm using my heater. I'm using a kerosene heater, man. I'm not even using electric heat, right? So, it's like, that's another thing. Actually, in the state of New Jersey, a lot of cities, that's illegal to even use a kerosene heater in your home. How's that? This place over here in Florida's got a hell of a lot less rules than other places, so I don't know why they're talking about. I guess that's the alternative media. Some places, they always got to dramatize some big story. They say, "Oh, look at the big tyranny he's doing against us." Oh, they're doing this and they're doing that. So, it's like one thing or the other. So, what can I tell you, man? But anyway, you got plenty of freedom. Just like a bear does its doo-doo in the woods, you are allowed to too. That's basically what it comes down to, man. That's the one thing you got to watch out for. It ain't kidding. You see signs out here, bear crossings. Bear crossings on County Road 442 when you're crossing over to the middle of the state. So, anyway, just a big freaking drama story about people in Florida not being able to live off the grid. As it is, practically loads of people, with the exception of electricity, which is pretty damn minor, most people don't have a sewer hookup, they don't have, water hookup or anything like that. They don't have that. That's pretty commonplace down here. We got a large aquifer running through the underground, and nobody's really connected to city water in most places except the highly populated areas. So, and it's no big deal to put solar panels. You're allowed to do that. I mean, you might have to get a building permit to do it if you're really going to go to town on it and just have a whole pile of them on your roof. But you can always use some solar panels without having a problem with anything, and add, because really electricity is practically nothing down here as it is. And, like I said, how many people in the state are retired and just living on campers, RVs, or boats? Loads. Loads of them, man. Loads of them. And, all those people are off the grid. I mean, your RV might be plugged into some place, but then it's got solar panels on it. Uses propane heat or kerosene heat. It's got its own little, and maybe you might be hooked up sometimes when it's over at some place. And a lot of people, like I said, they're living on boats, they're living on catamarans. It's all over the state. And, a lot of people don't realize there is a hell of a lot of people living on boats in the state of Florida, because you wouldn't believe that actually the state of Florida, the coastline, like people don't realize it, but there's an east coast and a west coast and a south coast along the panhandle, so it even has a longer coast than California. And the water's a hell of a lot warmer. So, because, the water comes up from the south, and the California comes down from Alaska, Canada, and it's pretty damn cold down there unless you get down by Mexico, so, because of the currents. So, anyway, loads of people living off the grid in Florida, man. I mean, I tell you what, man, I just saw that story about it's illegal to live off the freaking grid in Florida. Bullshit. God. Anything for freaking views, man. You know what? If there's one place, if you really want to live off the grid, it's in Florida. Why? Because there's plenty of water. There's plenty of growing season. There's plenty of sunshine. There's plenty of even rainfall. The temperature's warm enough, and you don't have to be dealing with snow, digging for water like 5,000 feet below or anything like that. I mean, it's not, not 5,000, we're 500 feet below, unless you're up on a extreme hill or something in Polk County or something. But, most of the time you just got to go down about 60, 70 feet and you got water. You hit the water table. It's no big deal. Or less. It's a pretty forgiving place to be living off the grid. If actually, I don't know. I just can't really think of any other place that would be easier to live off the grid than in Florida. It's actually the opposite is true of what the drama story is about. You're not allowed to live off the grid in Florida. That is when you're talking about a extremely populated city down in South Florida. Where some idiots live, maybe. Why would you want to live down there? We're deal with different gruel freaks. For the most part, it's definitely not like that. A lot of freedom here in Florida.